Come and dream with me.
Hello, welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Exposure Network's premier media podcast. Every week we get together to talk about movies, TV, and online content and help you answer the question, is it pronounced Khan or Can? Nobody knows. I'm your host, Ashley Hobley. Join me today, Dylan Blight.
Is it cans?
No, it's Khan or Cans. Khan. Can?
I think if you like they said Wrath of Khan, right?
No, I'm talking about the film festival. The film festival.
Sorry, what?
I'm talking about the Star Trek villain. I'm pretty sure.
Right, okay, I was a bit confused. I thought I was talking about the classic Star Trek villain.
No.
Khan.
Can.
Or also the Magic the Gathering Planeswalker, Khan.
On today's episode of What Do You Watch, we'll be talking about what's our worst history, covering a little bit of film news, giving you this week's top 3 and giving some thumbs to trailers. I'll kick things off. We talked about last week, the Muppets Mayhem, the new Muppets TV series that came to Disney Plus. All episodes came out at the same time, focusing on Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem, the classic band that's been part of the Muppets canon since the Muppet Show. Finally get the headline their own TV series, starring Lily Singh. She's an executive for a record label, but it's a very a record label that's about to go out of business, you know. And as she's asked to shred documents, she finds a contract for Electric Mayhem, who signed a deal to do an album for them but they never did the album because, you know, they're Electric Mayhem. They're party all day, all the time kind of people, just go about the business. So she wrangles up Electric Mayhem to come in and record their first ever album, despite, you know, being a band for 50 something years. Yeah, it's very enjoyable. I mean, it is very Muppety, you know, it's that brand of humor. It's very simplistic. I mean, it's obviously very much a kid's show. But yeah, really enjoyable. I mean, there's a lot of simplistic storylines. Lily Singh has a sister who's TikTok obsessed. She's a big social media influencer and that kind of stuff. So they kind of butt heads and that kind of stuff. And it's about family and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the more interesting elements are delving into the actual members of the Electric Mayhem and kind of expanding their backstories and that kind of stuff in ways that I don't think I've ever seen the story kind of expanded. But, you know, because they've always kind of been bit players. They're not the Kermit or Miss Piggy or Gonzo or anything. So kind of explaining how the band kind of got together and how Animal came about. How Animal, you know, he's got a very tragic backstory, you know. He was left on Floyd's porch as a child, you know, and you just took him in. That's how Animal came in. But yeah, they go in, it kind of weirdly does go in a very classic band musical story, you know. They record the album and then they kind of go their separate ways and they come back together for the one big last show. But yeah, I had a really good time. Lots of silly, fun cameos. One in particular, Kevin Smith's in the series, playing she's doing a documentary on the making of the album.
That's a joke about his Prince documentary. Do you know about this?
No.
So he was hired, got asked to film Prince. Well, at the time he was known as the Symbol, or whatever, however you prefer. And then he did all this stuff, and then Prince apparently decided that he didn't want to do it anymore, and took all the footage and locked it in a safe. Never did we ever see it again. And then that's it. It's a thing that doesn't exist. Yeah. That was at the time.
It's interesting because it's actually that may be it, but it also seems like it's a joke about Peter Jackson doing the way back, the Beatles, because Peter Jackson does end up a cameo in the episode. Very amusing. Yeah, lots of people in this. I don't want to ruin all the surprises, but yeah, I thought it was really fun. Lots of catchy songs. Music done by Michael Giacchino. That's interesting.
Well,
But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think Lily Singh is really good. She's fits in very well with the Muppets. She's got a lot of those kind of facial expressions and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, a fun kid-friendly time on Disney Plus. So check out the Muppets Mayhem. Also, last week I mentioned Crater, another Disney Plus original movie. It's about a bunch of kids who live on the moon. So there's a mining colony on the moon that is mining helium, but
oh yeah, that's right. This is the Ad Astra spinoff.
Kind of, yeah. But I mean, it's kind of dark. So it centers around this main kid. Oh, I don't have any names in front of me. Hang on.
See, Ad Astra was dark too. It's very dark in space, Ash.
That's true. This main kid, Caleb, whose dad just died in the mines on the moon. And as part of the agreement that his dad signs to work, because they sign like 20-year contracts at the mine, and once the 20 years are done, they get a spot for them and their family on a spaceship to a planet, like a faraway planet colony, like called Omega. So they get cryologically frozen, and then they get shipped off to Omega, which is like meant to be the new utopia or whatever. But the thing is, when a lot classic story, if you take any time off or anything, it gets added to your sentence or like your 20 years. And then if you pass away before your 20 years are up, that the time remaining gets added onto your children's time. And as soon as they turn 18, they have to start working in the mines. It's like a very fucked up system. But this kid's father died. His dad, played by Kid Cudi, he had this crater on the moon that he and his mother, the mother, would go to and visit. And he said it was always the plan they would take a road trip there. So Caleb and his friends decided to take a road trip before he gets sent off to Omega. So yeah, it's like a fun little silly road trip movie. Well, not silly. There's like some deeper meaning and that kind of stuff. But these kids kind of like venturing across the moon, doing silly things like playing with oxygen tanks and pretending to play baseball games on the moon where there's like no gravity and that kind of stuff. I think it's very fun. Visually, it's like pretty solid. Like it looks like they're on the moon. Yeah, and all the kids are really great. Probably the only one people would know would Grace McKenna from Ghostbusters Afterlife. But yeah, I found it really moving, and that the kids are really great, enjoyable little movie. Dylan, you watched Air, which is now available on Prime Video.
I did. I thought it was pretty decent. I feel like it goes too deep into anything. It's just I think it takes a story that you probably would have never heard about unless you were like super into sports history, I guess. It's not the sort of thing that you're just going to randomly come across, and it just tells it to you. It makes it interesting as it is. It just sort of keeps it to the bare minimum. But yeah, I find everything. I felt like I was engaged for the movie, but I didn't really care about anyone, if that makes sense. Like I don't really care about. There's a scene later in the movie where what the fuck? What's the Bateman's character? Yeah, Bateman's character is like talking to Matt Damon's character about like this big risk they're taking and his kids, and mentions his divorce and all these things. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'll just like they try to add like sort of a human element, but I just sort of all the people I know they're real people, but they were all just sort of they were just moving pieces of this puzzle. And I also definitely felt like the whole keeping Michael Jordan out of the picture, but also having him talk at times was very weird. Like if he never talked, it would maybe be a little bit different. But having those couple scenes where you like hear a voice, but you never actually see anything but the back of a head. It's an interesting, odd choice. Also, the scene where they fly out and they speak to the character played by Marlon Wayans or whatever, and that being in the movie solely because Michael Jordan was like, that dude's super important to me in real life. And that scene's just very odd, like pacing wise. Matt Damon is like, I'm getting on the plane, I gotta go see a dude or whatever. Like it's just sort of like, and then you never hear anything about that dude ever again or whatever else
until the end credits. Yeah,
until the end credits. So like, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that motherfucker was in here. I think the way it
he
all
has
comes
the
together,
most random thing.
story.
Yeah,
it just goes.
Like, no,
it goes
that can't be true.
Yeah, apparently it's true. So, yeah, I googled it afterwards. So, yeah, wow. It was decent. I'd probably sit around like a 6.5 to a 7-ish. Decent movie with a much more interesting, I think, real world story than the movie is as itself. But it definitely had me like, by the time the movie finished, I was quickly like googling all these, doing a little bit of fact checking and stuff like that. And then also just the other random tidbits about how like they did this whole thing about how at the time you could only have you had to have 51% white on your shoes and they were going to pay this fine and stuff. And then I'm like, well, when the fuck did that change? Because that ain't a thing anymore. Because I see clips of NBA on Twitter and that definitely isn't a thing. But yeah, it was decent.
So on Apple TV Plus, I watched the new documentary, Still, a Michael J. Fox movie, which released on Friday, despite all the information we had saying it was going to release on Monday.
Love that.
Love that. So yeah, it's a documentary about the life of Michael J. Fox. Of course, the man from Back to the Future and Family Ties and Spin City and all that kind of stuff. And of course, dealing with his diagnosis of having Parkinson's. Really well put together. Like they've edited in a way where a lot of what he's talking about, they're able to make it seem like they actually have actual footage of Michael J. Fox during the time, but a lot of it is just pulled from like different projects that he obviously was working on, and that kind of stuff. I don't think there's anything like revelatory or anything. Obviously, anybody who's kind of followed his career kind of knows what his trajectory and that kind of stuff. But as someone who maybe hasn't like deep dived into Michael J. Fox's career or like only really knows him from his big tentpole movies, this was a really interesting deep dive into his how he came up in the industry. Like I know barely anything about Family Ties, but obviously that was a massive show and he was a massive part of it being a success. It's crazy. They talk about how he filmed Back to the Future while doing Family Ties at the same time. And he would shoot Family Ties, then go shoot Back to the Future, and then get dropped off at home and have like 4 hours sleep and then go back and do it again. It was like kind of a crazy situation.
That's one of the reasons why he wasn't in the movie in the first place, and they had Eric Stoltz. So
yeah, I mean they definitely go into detail as to how he got the project and got involved in that kind of stuff. But of course, also talking about his learning like very early on in his career, like how he got Parkinson's or how he learned he had Parkinson's and kind of kept it to himself and like was very much a workaholic and like the techniques that he used to hide that he had Parkinson's. Like they talk about like at one point he says, "Oh, I would have a tick in my left hand, but if I was doing something with my left hand, it wasn't noticeable." So like they have a lot of cuts from different films or TV shows or projects like of him doing stuff with his left hand to emphasize that he was working to like trick people and that kind of stuff. Also cut with like current footage of Michael J. Fox like doing therapy and that kind of stuff to try and keep active and combat the effects of Parkinson's as much as humanly possible. I found it a really fantastic documentary. My only complaint is it just kind of ends. It doesn't, it does have like a slight swell, ending kind of thing, but it just kind of ends. It doesn't feel like.
This is one of those things of making a documentary about someone while they're still alive. Like, there's no.
Yeah, it is it doesn't really climax or have like, you would expect like a documentary to have like a bunch of like people come in and say like really nice things about him and how important and stuff he was. That's the other thing. It's like all told from Michael J. Fox and the director are the only voices. Oh, and his wife. They're the only people like interviewed. Like there's not a bunch of vox pops or whatever, or talking heads. And it's a lot of the narration. I think is pulled from his autobiography, because they do have him like reading passages from his autobiography and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, on Apple TV Plus, it's really good. I would recommend checking it out. Just really well edited together and like a really good portrait of a man who obviously, kind of was one of the biggest movie stars in the world at one point, and then had a terrible diagnosis. Yeah. Dylan, I thought you've caught up on Ted Lasso. What are your thoughts on season 3 of Ted Lasso so far?
I'm enjoying it. I think it's. I'm still of the mind that I'm like, I don't know what else there is to do. I feel like I see the end, but they haven't announced the show's ending. So, you know what I mean?
I don't know if they've confirmed it yet.
No, but I just like, it just feels like we're approaching a point of like a good wrap up to everything, basically, or it feels like we are anyway. So, but yeah, I like the way, like in this most recent episode, they sort of start. I don't know. It's hard not. Well, fuck. No spoilers. They start sort of hinting at pushing Keeley back towards what's his fuck Roy, which I'm all about.
Please, yes,
please. That's Ship Nation over there, So I like that. The very random romance that spurred up for Hannah Waddingham's character most recently. That was so interesting to see what happens there. Troy. Ted obviously still dealing with his anxiety and stuff. I feel like it's been pulled nearly thin at this point. I just need him to, like, I don't know. We had that whole breaking point.
Just get over it.
No. I'm just like, I don't know, like, because they had the season finale with obviously the huge breakdown, and then we did the season of the therapy lady and stuff like that, and now it feels like we're now building back up to having a therapy lady come back into the show. I feel like we're like sort of. I'm like, I don't know what like. Obviously, the story's playing out as him like accepting his wife's moved on and
yes,
all this sort of stuff. But I feel like every time I get a step forward, it's the show like sort of takes 2 steps. I don't know, but very, very iffy about that storyline and the way it's sort of being played out. But the stuff with old betrayer over at the other
Nate,
I'm liking the direction that's taken. At first it was like every time they switched over to his character the first couple episodes, I was like, fuck off, fuckface, like, you little piece of shit. But now I'm sort of like this. I'm hopeful at the moment for a redemption arc. The love of a good woman can do to a man, sort of, sort of thing. So, also Jamie's been really good this season. I don't feel like I need a big story arc for him anymore. It's just he had his thing, and now he's just sort of he's a character.
story arc is being a good player.
Story arc's being a good player. I feel like the other major story arc, obviously, that's played out has been what's his name? Colin's story playing out. It felt hammy at times, but I do feel like the last episode like did a good job at finishing that off and doing the storyline that they want to do of that, especially in the, I guess, the sports environment, which is usually very homophobic, I guess, or or at least portrayed, or predominantly
in men's sports,
macho men's sports. Yeah. So I like the way it played out, but I would say that up until that, it was like there was times where I was like, I don't know how I'm feeling about, like, it was, yeah. But no, I'm enjoying it. I'm still enjoying it. Ted Lasso's still good.
yeah, I'm really enjoying the series so far as well. I think 3 episodes left at time of recording. You know, I don't know exactly how it's going to land, but I'm looking forward to finding out. I just find it interesting that online there is such a lot of people have turned on the show.
It's weird, yeah.
Yeah, like to the extent where I've seen several articles from pretty reasonable outlets saying that season 3 of Ted Lasso was like taking a turn for the worse, or like a lot of people like saying they don't care about the show except for season 1 and that kind of stuff. And I can understand. Season 1 was like a perfectly constructed season of television, I think, with a clear antagonist, a clear like goal for what the season was going to have, and the show kind of grew in new and different directions, like that wasn't going to be for everybody. And I understand that this season has maybe been a little bit heavy-handed with some of its messaging.
There's one scene in particular that is just, I will admit, like I saw a few people point out online, it is not well. I think it's the corniest scene in the show's history. I'm totally down with the messaging, and it's the one where they're talking about the leaked images, that sort of one. That conversation between all of them sitting there in that room, very weird.
I think that was probably the most obvious. Like a lot of Americans have been saying afternoon special. Well, because a lot of their afternoon children's programming would be like very heavy messaging about things that you shouldn't do. That episode is interesting because obviously it's co-written by Keely Hazel, who plays young Rebecca, who had like a leaked imaging or leaked sex tape kind of thing happen to her. So you could, from that perspective, you could understand why she would like some of the stuff maybe a little bit more on the nose or heavy-handed. But there's been lots of really good storylines and that kind of stuff, and like sure, some of the messaging is like maybe a little bit too on the nose, but I found it maybe we could do with more like heavy-handed messaging, I think, across the board. I think the show's really still very funny. I think I laughed several times last episode, like the whole hairy ass thing with Roy. I've watched that like 5 or 6 times.
None of
forgive you
said a thing.
He's right. We're cowards. But yeah, just the whole narrative around the show is quite interesting.
No,
and like,
you know what made me fucking laugh? Actually, I just remember the scene that had me laugh was just walking into the room and coach, whatever his name is, the second coach, just arguing about fucking the best bass player, whatever the hell it was, losing his fucking mind.
Stairway to Heaven is a glorified finger exercise, you know it.
That was good shit.
But it's been interesting to see like the discussion around the show. I don't think for a show that's still fantastic to have alienated a lot of its viewers. I think it's interesting. Ted Lasso, we recommend still checking it out. I'm hopeful for a Nate redemption arc. I think they're definitely leaning that direction. I like the courtship between him and Jade. Even though it is incredibly awkward at times, it's like hard to watch how awkward. But I think it's definitely leaning towards an ending, at least for Ted.
Yeah, for
Ted, it's interesting because this season, I would argue, is the least Ted-filled season.
I definitely feel like there's a lot more story with other characters, but for Ted, I just feel like I don't know what the...
See, I pitched before the season even started, just spin-off. Just do a Richmond FC series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move into the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. Dylan, you watched the latest Hannah Gadsby special, Something Special.
Yeah. So after Nanette and the other one, Douglas.
Douglas.
Took a second. which were both. So Nanette was obviously this massive comedy special / TED talk. We loved it. Won Hannah all these awards. Was well praised, etc., etc., etc. Douglas comes in as the response to that. Like meta discussion around that and what happens and all that sort of stuff still feels very similar. This feels like it sort of shut this feels like the closing of a trilogy, if you could. And it's sort of like an arc of I'm gonna quit comedy, the world's terrible, I hate everything, to whoa, what the fuck happened? I'm famous now. What the fuck? To now this one's, hey, I met a publicist on the first day of touring Nanette. I'm now married to that woman, and I'm very happy now. it's a whole arc of things, and this definitely feels like, because the thing with Hannah Gadsby stuff is, I think I probably said this before, but I remember the first time I ever seeing Hannah Gadsby was Rove Live, stand up on that, and straight away being like, oh, comedian from Tasmanian was the introduction. I said, Tassie has comedians. Like, was my thing. And like I've always joked about for people down here, because Hannah comes from a bumfuck terrible town, if you know where it is. So there's all these funny things, but this latest comedy special, I guess it feels closer to typical stand-up, like just more funny jokes, but also almost like a new version. It's almost like you have OG Hannah Gadsby specials, then you have these two I hate everything, I need to talk about and get all this shit off my chest era, and now we're sort of in this new era of getting older, married, happy with life for the most part. I mean, there's still obviously things to talk about, but yeah, it feels like a different thing there. So that may or may not be for some people. If what you loved was the Nanette Douglas sort of stuff, I feel like this is not. It's none of that. If you like OG Hannah Gadsby stuff, this is not that. It's sort of in the middle across there. But I enjoyed it. I think there's some very funny setups early in the special that have really good payoffs for jokes later in the end. And yeah, the typical sort of, this is back to sort of traditional Hannah Gadsby, very Australian sort of delivered jokes is what the way I would put it. So I enjoyed it. I'd suggest watching it.
All right. You also watched a few other comedy specials. May Martin's ASAP, and also a special Us.
One of those I watched last year and I forgot to tick it off. And then the other one's a new one which I watched, which I think is called Sap. So,
yeah, Sap's the new one.
Yeah. So the other one I was like, oh fuck, I watched this last year. Anyway, I just ticked it off now. Sorry. Sap is I couldn't remember when I watched it last year. I knew it was last year, but Sap is so new May Martin special. It was decent. I don't feel like it was good as the other one. It's very much like coming out. It's another. We're gonna have like a whole bunch of these stand-up specials of people coming out of COVID, getting ring rust off for stand-up, I feel, and then also having to spend time discussing their thoughts on COVID. And this is the May Martin equivalent of that stand-up special. But yeah, if you like May Martin humor, which I don't even know how to describe it, I watched the other special after really liking that show, which I can't remember what it was even called now. They got 2 seasons on Netflix. This is, I don't know, whatever. I really liked it. It was really good. I remember the name. Fucking, how good was that? I think it was on my top 10. Anyway, it was really good. So if you like that sort of humor, feel good. Yeah, if you like that sort of humor and sort of real life discussion, I guess, what do you call it, like realist humor, then yeah, I'd suggest it. But it's I don't know. And another one was what's his fucking
You watched High and Dry by Jeff Jeffries.
Yeah, so this is, I feel like you should know, Jeffries is probably one of the most popular, if not the most popular Australian comedian. I feel like at the moment, at least on an international level. He's come back and he's got this show on the TV at the moment or whatever, the 1% or some shit. This was funny. This was good. This is also, again, just another comedian hitting on several of the hot topics at the moment. What do we hit on? We hit on COVID. We hit on, let me as a comedian talk about other comedians talking about trans people, like all these sorts of things. It's some of the stuff is very like whatever. I was like, just you can, I'm very much like, I'm on the line with some of these jokes of, I feel like are good intentioned and I can tell they're good intentioned and they're not bad. Whereas like the Dave Chappelle stuff, and the reason I don't watch his stuff anymore is, let me just complain about trans people for an hour and then be like, it's a joke. I have nothing against them. I'm like, I think you do. You spend an hour like, I don't know. There's some pretty funny bits in this though, especially around the one part that had me laugh for quite a lot was he does a whole thing on what's the show, Married at First Sight, or I don't know, whatever, the one where they like hand roses to people and they live in a house and there's like 13 guys and one girl and whatever else.
It could literally be any of them.
Yeah, any of that. There's like a whole, but he does like quite a funny like 10-minute bit on that. He also has like quite a funny joke about his telling his dad he's going to get a vasectomy, and his dad's like, no, you don't want to do that. Some like his humor is very like gross and blunt at time. It's like fast forward 30 seconds if you want to hear a gross joke, but he's like, you don't do that, son, because some women, they like to see the cum. And then he said, Dad, if you get a vasectomy, you still come. You just can't get pregnant. He's like, and then he goes, oh, my dad's, then my dad's like, nah, do it then. And he's like, here's my 84-year-old dad thinking that men have been shooting dust out their dicks for 20 years. So there's some funny stuff in there, but obviously there's some, it's very, if you've seen his stuff before, some of it's very gross and just out there.
Yeah. All right.
I enjoyed it.
So I binge watched season 3 of Queer Eye. Oh, season 7 of Queer Eye.
Jeez,
this time they're in New Orleans. It's fine. It's the same stuff. I don't think there's like a particularly standout episode this season. Yeah, it's more of Queer Eye. Very enjoyable. A lot of deserving heroes again this season. I don't think there's one deli owner who's kind of a dick. But, he's trying his best to learn from his mistakes and that kind of stuff. This season they've moved away from like them watching a video package back at the end of the episode and kind of reacting to that, which is interesting. And it I don't know, it just takes, there's a formulaic element to this show that they've kind of altered by not doing that. And they haven't found a like perfect way to end each episode, I feel like, this season. But that's kind of like a very small nitpick, and I feel like, obviously if you've enjoyed Queer Eye, it's more of those guys doing the same sort of thing, helping these people who need to be helped, and like crazy transformations and massive makeovers and that kind of stuff. So if you need some feel good television, Queer Eye season 7, it's more of it. I didn't really get a New Orleans feel other than, them playing brass jazz music in the intro and like them saying, what's the things just keep getting better in New Orleans. That's how they intro every episode. So, yeah. All right, that's everything in our watch history. Let's go into a little bit of film news. Not that there's much, because I don't know if you know, there's a writer strike going on at the moment.
Won't.
Yeah, so that's still going on. I guess the kind of big ramifications. The 76th annual Tony Awards was set to take place on the 11th of June, but will no longer air via streaming or broadcasting. The news comes in the wake of the ongoing writer strike, which will affect film and television writers like the kind who would write a telecast for an award show. So this is also on the back of the Peabody Awards, I want to say, saying that they're not going to hold their usual ceremony. But yeah, I mean, other than that, not a lot of news. Not a lot of updates on the writer's strike. They're still going on. This week is TV upfronts. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that plays out with the future of television kind of in doubt for a lot of probably shows that a lot of the networks have planned. So we'll talk about that next week. Of course, Khan is this week. So we'll be talking about that next week. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these things play out. I guess one big story that's been doing one big rumor that's been doing the rounds is around some of the casting news for Superman Legacy. People up for particular roles. So I might address some of that. Of course, the big role of Superman, there's a very short list, but apparently the front runner is Pearl star David Corenswet, who I have happily been on the bandwagon for several years to get the role of Superman. So to see that he's potentially in the running is very exciting for me. Other people rumored to be around the Superman role include Jacob Elordi, as well as British actors Tom Brittney and Andrew Richardson. On the short list of actors considered to be playing reporter Lois Lane, they include Sex Education star Emma Mackey, Marvelous Miss Maisel star Rachel Brosnahan, Bridgerton star Phoebe Dynevor, and Scream 6 star Samara Weaving. And according to The Hollywood Reporter, Nicholas Hoult has been penciled in for the role of Lex Luthor. People have been discussing Hoult as a potential performer in Superman Legacy for a while, with some suggesting he might be playing Superman. Deadline senior editor seems to think Hoult is still up for Supes, but it's entirely impossible he's auditioned for both. Dylan, of course, and James Gunn came out as his rumors were spreading and tweeted, "For all who are asking, I never comment who is auditioning or isn't auditioning for the role. That's the actor's business only." And he said, "Only one person has been cast in Superman Legacy and isn't any of the regular players in the Superman world." Dylan, what are your thoughts on these casting rumors for Superman Legacy?
All the people for Superman I don't really care about, to be completely honest, and not in a way like I think they're all terrible. It's just Superman casting in itself doesn't, I don't know, like I just don't, it's hard to, like, I feel like I just need to see it. I can't predict.
Yeah,
like, I struggle to go, oh yeah, because especially because the Superman part of being Superman is a lot of CGI and whatever, just muscle suit and whatever. It's the Clark Kent and the I don't know, delivery.
it's a lot of
That's
flying.
hard. Emma McKay as Lois, I think, is great pick. I can actually see that, and I think that'd make especially if we're going to go for a younger Superman in a younger like time period and whatever else. I think that's good. And in that case, I also feel like I could picture Nicholas Hoult as a slightly older than the Superman, like, because that works then. Like if you go for a little bit younger Lois and Clark, and then Nicholas Hoult sort of fits in there at that good age. You have like a 20s, and then you've got like a 30s.
Yeah,
so it's only a slight gap, but he is Nicholas Hoult can do everything. So I can picture him as either super serious or maniacal Lex Luthor. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, that's a very interesting pick because you could go any direction with that because he can do pretty much anything, like you said. And I think it looks solid, bald. Yeah. I mean, Jesse Eisenberg wasn't a terrible Lex Luthor, but Nicholas Hoult would be a good fit. Although Nicholas Hoult as Superman would also be interesting. But yeah, again, it's a wait and see exactly what's happened here. This news story caught my attention. Dylan, how would you like to get a free 55-inch 4K television?
How big?
What if I told you
54 inch?
What?
Did you say 54 inches?
55.
Right, I was like, what the fuck? That's not
55-inch 4K television.
Sure, I won't say no.
But there's one catch.
Okay.
The unit has a 9-inch high second screen affixed to the bottom of the set. which is the real estate of the company called Telly, who will use it for displaying news, sports scores, weather and stocks, or even letting users play video games. Critically, Telly's second screen features a dedicated space on the right-hand side that will display advertising, ads you can't skip past, and ads that stay on the screen the entire time you're watching TV, even
What
when
the
you're not.
fuck? No. No.
No?
No.
That's not a good trade-off?
No. Because it's always on, right? So then it's always draining electricity.
Well, I mean, you could turn it off in the main. Like our good friend Buddy Watson does with the PlayStation.
How the fuck do you concentrate on anything if you got an ad running constantly on the side? No, this is terrible. I hate everything about this. Next. Thank you, next.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah. So this is obviously something they're doing in the States from a company called Telly. They're giving away 500,000 free 4K TVs with this second screen. What was the other thing? When you sign up through the company's app, Telly will ask for specific demographic TV viewing and lifestyle info, which the company will use to target addressable ads to individual households. The TV also has a built-in sensor that can detect the number of people who are watching at any particular time. Dylan, my solution to this is very simple. Just create like a cardboard box or something in front of that second TV. Then you don't have to look at it. And then it thinks nobody's watching all the time.
But I'm also like, if you got someone who knows what they're doing, could you not just get it and get someone to just open the screen panel and just like take out the one cord that displays the image?
Probably.
And then they still think it's playing ads, but there's nothing being displayed.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of way you could work this in your favor. So yeah. If you're in the States and you're interested in a free television, check out Telly. All right, let's move into giving some thumbs to the trailers. Of course, you can find all the trailers we're about to talk about in the show notes of the podcast. First trailer for this week, The Crowded Room, created by Akiva Goldsman, starring Tom Holland, Amanda Seyfried, Emmy Rossum, Sacha Lane, Will Chase, Leo Raz, Layla Robbins, and Henry Eikenberry. Danny Sullivan, a man who was arrested following his involvement in a shooting in New York City in 1979. A captivating thriller told through a series of interviews with curious interrogator Raya Goodwin. Danny's life story unfolds, revealing elements of the mysterious past that shaped him and the twists and turns that lead him to a life-altering revelation. Dylan, what do you think of this trailer? Are you disappointed? It's not a the doc. It's not the biopic of the founding of Crowded House.
What?
No, I butchered the joke.
Oh, because it's called The Crowded Room. Right, got you. I'll go one up, one down. I think seeing Tom Holland with long hair is weird.
Yes.
But otherwise, interesting little trailer. I don't really know what's going on. Also, the way the trailer was paced, I was waiting for like based on a true story, but then it didn't come. It just felt like it was building up to that.
I think it does at some point. Like,
does it?
Based on real events or something?
Does it? Okay.
Or it's based on a book that is a non-fiction book, so.
Okay, right. That might make a bit more sense as to how trailers paced then. But yeah, I'll go one up, one down. I think it looks interesting, but I also feel like I don't know, it just looks very TV daytime. Something about the way it was shot it just seems to have no stylization or anything going on. A bit odd. Just looks very telly movie, I guess, rather than I know it's on Apple TV, but it doesn't look like a feature film, you know.
Yeah, I'll go one up, one down as well. It's got an interesting enough premise, I guess, but none of the performance particularly sold me on this. You know, so also it's this weird distinction. Like, is this a TV series? Is it a movie? It's like I wish they would kind of be a bit more clear in these trailers. But yeah, The Crowded Room is coming to Apple TV Plus on the 9th of June. Next trailer for this week, Run Rabbit Run, directed by Dana Reed, starring Sarah Snook, Lily Latour, Damon Harriman, and Greta Scacchi. As a fertility doctor, Sarah has a firm understanding of the cycle of life. However, when she is forced to make sense of the increasingly strange behavior of her young daughter, Sarah must challenge her own beliefs and confront a ghost from her past. Dylan, what do you think of this trailer for an Australian horror movie?
Yeah, double thumbs up. Looks really, really, really good. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I'm all about it. No, I mean the premises of it. The premise is interesting as it is. It's like, it's a fertility doctor who loses a sister who now has a kid, and then the kid's like saying that she's her lost sister. A lot going on there. Very Alice down the looking through the looking glass stuff going on, and then the rabbit and whatever else. Sarah Snook, obviously most popular at the moment for Succession, but seeing her do something else that's not that character, because obviously I remember last time, I know she was in that movie you watched, so I never got around to watch the fucking I fell into a vat of pickles or whatever.
Pickle. Yeah.
Pickle Man or whatever else, but like she was in she's really good in Pieces of Woman and stuff, so good to see her come back and do a something on her home ground. I actually don't know if it was shot in wherever she's from, but I know she's from Australia. I don't know where in Australia she's from.
But... yeah, I'm pretty sure it was shot here in Australia.
No, but I mean, I don't know where. I don't know if she's from Victoria or New South Wales or.
Sarah Snook was born in Adelaide.
Okay, well, it says it was shot in South Australia, so there you go. Really home ground. There you go.
Crazy. Yeah, I'll give it 2 thumbs up as well. I'm not particularly interested in watching it, but fucked up children. It's very scary. And then the whole rabbit like biting a hand. It's like, my question: did they come up with the premise of the story first, or did they get the title first? Because there was that series of ads that ran that was using that Run Rabbit Run song constantly during the.
Really?
I can't remember when, maybe 90s, early 2000s. Like get an advertising thing, I want to say, for something. Like, yes, let's make a horror movie based around this stupid song.
Really?
Which I don't think they got the rights for. But that's what jogged in my memory when I heard the title of this movie. So, but yeah, this is coming to Netflix on the 28th of June. So that's a big release. Yeah. Next trailer. Flamin' Hot, directed by Eva Longoria, starring Jesse Garcia, Annie Gonzalez, Dennis Hasbert, and Tony Shalhoub. Richard Montanez, the son of a Mexican immigrant, was a janitor at Frito-Lay when it came up with the idea for Flamin' Hot Cheetos. His creation, inspired by the flavors of his community, revitalized Frito-Lay and disrupts the food industry. Dylan, what do you think of this Flamin' Hot trailer?
I'll go one up, one down. I think the story I'm intrigued by, but the movie itself just seems so annoyingly lively to the point of it's a bit too cartoony, if you know what I mean. Like, it just seems they're like, hey, this is a true story, but the way everything's happening in the trailer makes it seem like it's not real. It's just some weird thing that isn't. So yeah, I'll go one up, one down.
Yeah, I'll go one up, one down as well. Like, the tone of the trailer is a bit all over the place. To the extent, like, I used to be a gang member doing all this stuff, and then it's like, let's have a joke opening dream sequence, unreliable narrator element. But it looks like an interesting story. It looks like it'll be quite amusing and obviously important to this community. And I do enjoy watching that little kid getting his mouth burnt, but it's a good burn. Burns good.
Burns good, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm excited to watch this. Coming to Disney Plus on the 9th of June, I think. Not confirmed by here at Disney Plus here in Australia, but we'll see. Next trailer, Reality. Directed by Tina Sattler. starring Sydney Sweeney, Martin Davis, and Josh Hamilton. A former American intelligence specialist is given the longest sentence for the unauthorized release of government information to the media about Russian interference in the 2016 United States election via an email operation. Dylan, what do you think of this trailer for reality?
Yeah, double thumbs up. I think this looks really good. I watched the teaser a couple months back, whenever that came out, and then as soon as this dropped the other day, I watched it because I was already keen just on the premise, and obviously being someone who thinks Sydney Sweeney's sort of got untapped potential, I think, and looks like it could be a really good showcase for that, as well as telling a super interesting story about a recent event, obviously during the Trump era and everything. So a story I know, but not all the facts of. So only what you read in the news sites and stuff. So yeah, double thumbs up. I'm super keen for this one.
Yeah, this is double thumbs up from me as well. I think it's like really well put together and really interesting. Obviously, a story that we know but don't know. I think the only off-putting thing is her name is Reality Winner, which is like bizarre to, I think, us here in Australia. Like, it's just a really weird name. Like, but yeah, just actually reading the story of how this film came together, and it's based on a play that someone did on the story that went to off Broadway and that kind of stuff. So, and then now being adapted into a film by the director and writer of the play. I think really interesting. Sydney Sweeney looks really good. Obviously playing again, I guess against type, like from what I've seen of her so far. But yeah, this looks really good. So excited to see this. It is coming to HBO Max on the 29th of May. Don't know when we're going to see it here in Australia.
Should be a binge, surely.
Maybe. We'll see. Last trailer for this week is for The Walking Dead, Dead City, created by Eli Jorne, starring Lauren Cohen, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Gaius Charles, Jonathan Higginbottom, Machina Napoleon, Trey Santiago Hudson, and Charlie Solis. Maggie and Negan travel into a post-apocalyptic Manhattan, long cut off from the mainland. The crumbling city is filled with dead and denizens who have made New York City their own world, full of anarchy, danger, beauty, and terror. Dylan, what do you think of this latest The Walking Dead spin-off?
Double thumbs down. I don't care. I watched this and I felt nothing. The void of life.
I'll give it 1 up, 1 down. I think it looks fine. Obviously, as someone who has not watched 11 seasons of The Walking Dead, I'm not terribly invested. I mean, it's an interesting setting. Like, obviously, you never saw New York in the Walking Dead universe, so how does a zombie apocalypse New York look? That could be interesting, especially when it seems like the island has kind of submerged, which is a known fact. Like, if a bunch of generators around New York aren't running, the whole island will just sink. So it looks like that's what's happened. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like Lauren Cohen and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, they're huge characters. Let's put them in a spin-off show together. Done. Just wash your hands of it and then move on to the next. Did you know there's like 4 other spin-off series coming?
Yes.
When did you drop off The Walking Dead?
Well, so let's put this in perspective. I've read all of the comic books.
Yeah.
The show's terrible though. I dropped off at halfway through season 3, maybe.
Okay.
No, I'm halfway through season 3 or 4. One of those.
Was Negan even in the show by then?
No.
Okay.
No, I never got to Negan. And
Okay.
as much as it was cool when all the promos started popping up with him finally coming into the show, and obviously him being such a prominent character and whatever else, I still could not have cared to come back to the TV world. And then reading about how drawn out a lot of his stuff was, again, which is my problem. Everything in the show is so fucking drawn out and tedious, and yeah, no, it wasn't for me. I couldn't.
All right. That's all the trailers for this week. Let's do this week's top 3.
Definitely in the top 3.
We're doing top 3 picks from this year's Sydney International Film Festival. Of course, they just released their program with the festival set to run from the 7th of June to the 18th of June. So lots of huge films that we would be keen to watch, but we're not going to. If you're in Sydney, these are the movies that we think you should go watch. So, Dylan, what's your number 3?
My number 3. Let's make it really easy. My number 3 is Reality. So, the thing we was just talking about, that trailer that we just talked about, that I just gave double thumbs up to, that'd be my number 3 pick. I've purposely not picked anything we've talked about, like major stuff we've talked about a lot before. So,
So
Reality.
Elemental and Asteroid City and all.
Yeah, I left all that shit off. Yeah,
I mean, same. So
yeah,
this worked out. My number 3 is a film called Biosphere, starring Mark Duplass and Sterling K. Brown. Debuted at TIFF last year. It's like a end of the world story from first time director, in which Billy and Ray, played by the 2 actors, live in a biodome and have to kind of, apparently it's like a very smart, imaginative comedy. I think it has like a 90 something on Rotten Tomatoes from 30 something reviews. So, and they say it's best to watch it with the funny, smart, imaginative comedy is best entered knowing as little as possible. So, that's always a good sign. So yeah, that's my number 3. Dylan, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is The New Boy, the new Warwick Thornton film, director of Sweet Country and Samson and Delilah. This one has Kate Blanchett starring as a nun who sort of, I don't know the whole story. I think she plays a nun, and then this like 9-year-old Aboriginal boy shows up somehow, and then I don't know stuff. I'm mostly keen because it's new Warwick Thornton film. Basically, I don't really know much about the movie.
First film since Sweet Country, which
which came out like 2000 fucking, I don't know,
17.
7 or something. Yeah, ages ago. So, very good movie though. You should all watch it.
Yeah. This was going to be my number 2, but I'll switch it up. My number 2, Cobweb. This is a film showing at Cannes at the moment. Directed by Kim Joo-woon, who did A Tale of Two Sisters and The Edge of Shadows. Starring Song Kang-ho from Parasite, who plays a director who wants to go back and reshoot his latest film in the 1970s, and kind of going into the stress and troubles of trying to accomplish that with a bunch of crazy visions of what he should be doing. So yeah, that sounds like a good time. So that's my number 2. Dylan, what's your number 1?
My number 1 was How to Blow Up a Pipeline. So this A24 film that will never come out here, but I'd be keen to watch.
What are you talking about? We got pipelines all well.
This film's been really interesting, like reading about it in the news sphere, because there was like, I can't remember who it was, but someone was trying to get it banned. It was just because they were like, this movie is trying to tell people to actually go bomb fucking
this is
ecoterrorism
movie
and stuff like that, propaganda movie, which, I haven't seen it. I can't say if it is or not. Maybe it is. But I mean, the storyline's basically a group of friends or whatever in California. From my understanding, they're like I think one of their parents or something dies, and then they sort of, they're sick of their city being polluted, and they just go to take some shit in their own hands. They decide to blow up a pipeline. So,
as you do.
So I'm all about it. I think it sounds really interesting. I'm very, very keen to watch this one.
Yeah. My number 1 is Past Lives. The film, directed by Celine Song, debuted at Sundance and I've seen people constantly bring it up ever since. Also done by A24, following a woman who reconnects with a long lost childhood friend after she's moved to America after growing up in Korea. And yeah, looks really interesting. Obviously, lots of hype around it. So also done by A24. And I think you won't be able to see it till much later in the year. So if you can see it now, do it.
Is it? So when all these went up the other day, I had a quick look at flights and stuff, and I was like, meh. No, I can't. Sydney's expensive, but I was like, meh.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So yeah, Dylan, this week, what do you want to watch?
Fucking easy answer. It's Fast and Furious 10, isn't it?
Yeah, that's also mine.
Yeah, easy pick for the film. When are you going again? Wednesday?
Tonight at time of recording.
All right, tonight. Fucking hell, rightio. So I don't get to go see it until Thursday night. So, but obviously keen, big Fast and Furious fan. Up down relationship with some of the movies, but I'm never not going to be excited for another Fast and Furious movie. Absolutely loving Twitter at the moment, seeing everyone talking, pinpoint a part in the franchise where you lost all point of reality, and everyone's like quote tweet these Fast and Furious things like, yeah, how fucking good's that? Like everyone's tweeting it like it's a negative. I'm like, hilarious. That scene, amazing. Like I'm like, you just don't get it. You just don't. Everyone points out all these things about this franchise that they try and shit on it. Every time a new one comes out, Twitter's just people being like, this franchise is so ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, it is. But how good it is. So, very keen. Also, I love the fact that I thought I was preparing for this one and one more after this. And then this last week, Vin Diesel was like, nah, there's like 3 movies. Like, who knows what's happening anymore?
It's never actually going to end.
Yeah, it's just it's ending. We all thought
it's going to be John Farnham. It's like I think it's
out of retirement again every single time. And then there was all these stories. Apparently, the fucking Rock's back in this one. So the rumor goes now.
Is the rumor? Yeah,
is the rumor. So that'll be super fucking interesting if it is, because not only it would be like, how the fuck did they manage to Vin Diesel make up with him? But then you've got John Cena and the Rock in a movie together. So, my TV show pick would be XO Kitty, by the way.
That would also be my pick. But on Final Fantasy, Fast X, yeah, I'm keen. I'm excited to go watch it tonight. I rewatched 9 for the first time last night, and in anticipation. Yeah, I've seen a couple of reactions to the film on Twitter, so like very vague with it maybe not being the best one, but Jason Momoa being fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that.
Depends depending on who's talking about it. I'm like, do I care about your opinions on the Fast and Furious movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also on the people sharing the clips, like people sharing the thing where they think Vin Diesel's catching a car. It's not Vin Diesel, and he doesn't catch the car. He gets hit by that car. It's just edited in a way to look like it.
I know people are sharing those other ones, like the part where the Rock like breaks out of his thing and says Daddy's got to go to work.
That's just fantastic.
Speeding up and catching the plane and getting on top of it somehow. Like all these fantastic moments, and people are sharing them as negatives. I'm like, how good are these films?
On it, yeah. I guess my question, Dylan, is justice coming?
Aquaman's coming. That's
yeah, and then
I was gonna say the only thing I was gonna say is that I will be fucking losing my mind if Han
and Jason Statham start making
I know.
It's like I loved you the entire time. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, dude. Yeah. I wasn't trying to kill you. I was trying to kill this other guy. Actually, let's just rewrite the whole.
Yeah. Kitty XO, about the young girl from the All the Boys I Ever Loved franchise going to Korea, chasing the boy, but it turns out he's dating somebody else. It looks like it'll be a good, fun YA time. So, Not a lot of streaming television this week,
No.
surprisingly. Let us know what you want to watch this week. Are you excited for Fast X? What did you think of this week's trailers?
I'll tell you what else I watched real quickly. I watched this week's episode of Silo, the latest one, episode 3. Have you watched that yet?
Yes,
What's that right before recording? That was a fucking intense episode of TV.
it was.
I'll tell you what.
Okay.
There's a show everyone should be watching. I know we talked about it last week, and I was like, this show's really fucking good. And you were like, oh, I don't know, it's paced a bit weirdly. Episode 3 is a fucking banger. We're all off.
They're done repairing it, so there's all the changes gone.
Fucking-
Although it does end on like a crazy.
It does end on a crazy cliffhanger. So that show's
It
still
does, yeah. It's got me. Yeah, let us know by going to explosion.com/Twitter or jump to Discord at explosion.com/Discord. If you want to help us out here, what do you want to watch? Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. Leave us 5 stars, and you can leave 5 stars. And if you've enjoyed this episode, thought it was worth $1, head over to our Ko page at explosion.com/support. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.